They mocked my small gaming company, then NVIDIA called with a $500 million offer. The rain hammered against the windowpane of her tiny studio apartment as Emma sat hunched over an old laptop that had seen better days. The glow from the screen illuminated her face, pale and tired but determined. Her fingers danced across the keyboard with practiced precision, lines of code appearing like magic on the screen. It was late, or perhaps early, time blurred in this little cocoon she called home. Around her were scattered notebooks filled with sketches, diagrams, and scribbled ideas, remnants of countless sleepless nights spent chasing a dream. Emma's dream wasn't just about making video games, it was about creating something meaningful. She envisioned worlds where players could lose themselves, stories so immersive they would stay etched in their minds long after the credits rolled. But dreams don't come cheap, especially not when you're trying to build them alone. Every penny she earned went straight back into her project, a game tentatively titled Eclipse, Shadows of Tomorrow. She'd chosen the name because it symbolized duality, light and darkness coexisting, fragile hope amidst overwhelming despair. It felt fitting for what she was building, and for how life often treated her. Her journey began years ago, during college, where she studied computer science while secretly attending art classes on weekends. By day, she learned algorithms and programming languages. By night, she sketched characters and painted landscapes. When classmates teased her for being too ambitious or professors warned her about biting off more than she could chew, she smiled politely and nodded, but inside, she burned with resolve. They didn't understand. How could they? To them, gaming was entertainment, escapism at best. To Emma, it was art, storytelling, connection. After graduation, instead of taking one of the cushy tech jobs offered to her, she decided to go rogue. At first, everyone thought it was temporary insanity. Friends whispered behind her back, family begged her to reconsider, and even her mentor, a gruff but kind-hearted professor named Dr. Patel, tried to talk some sense into her. "You can always chase your passion later," he said over coffee one afternoon. "Why waste all those years of hard work?" But Emma couldn't wait. If she waited, the fire within her might flicker out. So, armed with nothing but a modest savings account, sheer willpower, and a vision only she believed in, she founded Lunar Studios, a name inspired by her love for the moon and its quiet persistence despite living in the shadow of the sun. For months, she worked tirelessly, teaching herself everything she didn't already know: 3D modeling, sound design, narrative structure. She reached out to freelance artists and musicians willing to collaborate for exposure rather than money. Slowly but surely, pieces of Eclipse started falling into place. Yet no matter how much progress she made, doubt lingered like a specter. Rejection emails piled up in her inbox. Investors laughed at her pitch decks, dismissing her idea as too niche, too risky. Even fellow indie developers scoffed at her ambitions. "You're dreaming too big," one told her bluntly at a local meetup. "No one cares about deep narratives anymore. Make something flashy, easy to monetize." Still, Emma pressed on. She poured her heart into every pixel, every line of dialogue. And then came the turning point, the moment that changed everything. Or so she thought. It happened at PAX West, one of the largest gaming conventions in the world. Emma scraped together every last dime to rent a booth in the indie showcase section, praying anyone, would notice her work. The space was cramped, overshadowed by flashy booths from AAA studios boasting massive budgets and celebrity endorsements. Hers was modest, a homemade banner hanging crookedly above a folding table cluttered with flyers and a single monitor displaying the demo version of Eclipse. For 3 days, foot traffic trickled in sporadically. Most attendees barely glanced at her booth before moving on to shinier attractions. But on the 4th day, something extraordinary occurred. A young woman stopped by, drawn perhaps by curiosity or simply because there was a gap between the crowds. Emma greeted her warmly, inviting her to try the demo. As the player navigated through the opening sequence, a hauntingly beautiful prologue set in a crumbling city shrouded in perpetual twilight, the atmosphere shifted. The woman gasped audibly at key moments, leaning closer to the screen as if afraid to miss a single detail. When the demo ended, tears glistened in her eyes. That was incredible," she stammered, clutching the edge of the table. "I've never played anything like it before." Word spread quickly among attendees. Suddenly, Emma's booth was swarmed with curious gamers eager to experience Eclipse for themselves. Some praised its intricate world-building, others marveled at its emotional depth. Strangers approached her throughout the day, sharing personal stories about how the game resonated with them. One man confided that the protagonist reminded him of his younger sister, who struggled with depression. Another woman thanked Emma for tackling themes of loss and redemption, saying it gave her courage to confront her own grief. By the end of the convention, Emma felt both exhilarated and drained. She had collected business cards, exchanged contact information, and received glowing feedback from industry veterans. Yet beneath the surface, skepticism lingered. Sure, people liked her game now, but would they remember it tomorrow? Would anyone actually invest in her vision? Back home, reality hit hard. Bills piled up faster than ever. Freelancers grew impatient waiting for payments. Emma juggled part-time gigs, tutoring coding students online, delivering groceries, to keep Lunar Studios afloat. Nights became longer, darker. Doubts crept in again, whispering cruel truths she tried desperately to ignore. Was she foolish to keep going? Should she cut her losses and walk away? And then one fateful morning, her phone buzzed insistently on the kitchen counter. Bleary-eyed and sipping stale coffee, Emma glanced at the caller ID. Unfamiliar number. Probably another telemarketer. But something compelled her to answer anyway. "Hello?" she said groggily. "Ms. Carter." The voice on the other end was crisp, professional. "This is Michael Chun from NVIDIA. We'd like to discuss potential opportunities regarding your company, Lunar Studios." Emma froze mid-sip. Coffee sloshed onto her pajamas, but she barely noticed. NVIDIA? The tech giant synonymous with cutting-edge graphics cards and AI innovation? Why were they calling her? I'm sorry, she stammered. Could you clarify? Michael chuckled softly, as though amused by her disbelief. We've been following your work closely, Ms. Carter. Specifically, Eclipse, Shadows of Tomorrow. There's immense potential there, and we believe partnering with you could be mutually beneficial. Emma gripped the phone tightly, knuckles white. Partnering? She echoed faintly. Yes. In fact, he paused briefly, letting anticipation hang heavy in the air. We're prepared to make an offer. A significant one. Her breath hitched. Significant. $500 million. The room spun. $500 million. Surely, this was a prank. Maybe her friends hired a voice actor to cheer her up after another grueling week. But no, Michael sounded genuine, his tone measured yet enthusiastic. He went on to outline preliminary terms, discussing acquisition options and development support. Emma listened numbly, nodding occasionally even though he couldn't see her. When the call ended, she collapsed onto the couch, staring blankly at the ceiling. Tears welled up unbidden, spilling down her cheeks. Not of sadness, but of relief. Joy. Fear. All tangled together in a chaotic mess. For years, she'd fought tooth and nail to prove herself, to show the world that her small gaming company deserved recognition. Now, here was NVIDIA, validating everything she'd sacrificed. But acceptance wasn't universal. News of the offer leaked almost immediately, thanks to a careless tweet by someone who overheard Michael mentioning it during a conference call. Overnight, social media erupted. Memes mocking Emma flooded Twitter timelines. Comment sections brimmed with vitriol. "Sellout," screamed one post. "Another indie developer bites the dust," lamented another. Industry insiders weighed in, speculating whether NVIDIA's interest stemmed from genuine admiration or mere opportunism. Some accused Emma of compromising artistic integrity for profit. Others dismissed Eclipse altogether, claiming its success relied solely on hype. Reading these comments felt like being punched repeatedly in the gut. Each insult chipped away at her confidence, reigniting doubts she thought she'd buried long ago. Had she really sold out? Would partnering with NVIDIA dilute her vision? Worse still, what if critics were right? What if Eclipse failed under corporate scrutiny, reduced to yet another casualty of commercialization? Despite the backlash, Emma refused to let negativity consume her completely. Deep down, she knew why she started Lunar Studios, to create meaningful experiences that resonated with players. That mission hadn't changed, regardless of external opinions. Besides, NVIDIA promised creative freedom, promising resources and expertise to elevate Eclipse beyond anything she imagined possible. Still, navigating newfound fame proved daunting. Interview requests poured in daily. Journalists clamored for exclusives, eager to dissect her meteoric rise from obscurity to multimillion-dollar dealmaker. Podcast hosts invited her onto their shows, hoping to uncover secrets behind her sudden success. Fans bombarded her inbox with questions, praise, and occasional criticism. Managing expectations became exhausting. Every decision carried weight now, not just for her sake, but for Lunar Studios' legacy. Amidst the chaos, Emma found solace in unexpected places. Fellow indie developers reached out privately, offering congratulations and encouragement. Many admitted envying her position, wishing similar opportunities would knock on their doors someday. Their support reminded her she wasn't alone in this journey. Together, they formed a tight-knit community bound by shared struggles and aspirations. One evening, after another grueling round of negotiations with NVIDIA's legal team, Emma retreated to her balcony overlooking the city skyline. Lights twinkled below, cars honked distantly, and somewhere nearby, a street musician strummed a melancholic tune on his guitar. Leaning against the railing, she allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. How far she'd come since those early days tinkering with code in her cramped dorm room. Back then, success seemed like a distant mirage, forever just out of reach. Now, standing on the precipice of greatness, she realized true fulfillment lay not in accolades or financial windfalls, but in the connections forged along the way. Players touched by eclipse. Collaborators believing in her vision. Strangers cheering her on despite cynicism surrounding her partnership with NVIDIA. A soft breeze rustled her hair, carrying whispers of encouragement from invisible allies. Somewhere out there, people rooted for her, not because she struck gold, but because she dared to dream boldly. And perhaps, that was enough. As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Emma returned indoors, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. Whatever happened next, she vowed to stay true to herself and her craft. After all, stories worth telling rarely followed predictable paths. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Emma found herself shuttling between meetings with NVIDIA executives, brainstorming sessions with her newly expanded team, and late-night coding marathons to refine Eclipse. The pressure was immense, but she thrived under it. For the first time in years, she wasn't fighting alone. She had resources, collaborators, and a support system that believed in her vision as fiercely as she did. But the transition wasn't without its challenges. As Lunar Studios grew from a one-woman operation into a burgeoning studio backed by one of the biggest names in tech, Emma faced decisions she'd never anticipated. Hiring new talent meant sifting through resumes and portfolios, weighing skill sets against cultural fit. Expanding office space required navigating leases, furniture orders, and IT setups. And then there was the delicate dance of balancing creative freedom with corporate expectations, a tightrope walk she hadn't fully prepared for. One particularly tense meeting stood out. Sitting across from Michael Chen and his team, Emma listened intently as they outlined their vision for Eclipse. Their ideas weren't bad, in fact, many aligned perfectly with her original concept, but others veered dangerously close to diluting the game's soul. They suggested adding microtransactions, streamlining certain narrative arcs for broader appeal, and even incorporating multiplayer elements despite the story-driven nature of the project. Emma clenched her fists beneath the table, nails digging into her palms. This was her worst fear realized, outsiders trying to reshape her creation into something more marketable, less risky. But instead of lashing out, she took a deep breath and leaned forward, her voice steady but firm. "I understand your perspective," she began, choosing her words carefully. "And I appreciate the thought behind these suggestions. But Eclipse isn't just another product, it's a deeply personal story about resilience, connection, and finding light in darkness. Those themes are non-negotiable. If we lose sight of them, we lose the essence of what makes this game special." Michael studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then slowly, he nodded. "Fair enough," he said. "We're here to amplify your vision, not alter it. Let's find solutions that honor both artistic integrity and commercial viability." Relief washed over Emma, though she remained cautious. Trust had to be earned, step by step. Over the next few weeks, she worked tirelessly to ensure every decision aligned with her core values. When disagreements arose, and they often did, she approached them with diplomacy and data, presenting playtest feedback and user surveys to bolster her arguments. Slowly but surely, NVIDIA began to see her point of view. Collaboration replaced confrontation, mutual respect blossomed, and progress accelerated. Meanwhile, the gaming community continued to buzz with speculation about Eclipse. Trailers released during major industry events garnered millions of views, sparking heated debates on forums and social media. Fans dissected every frame, theorizing plot twists and character motivations. Critics praised the visuals, calling them breathtaking and cinematic. Yet skepticism lingered among some corners of the internet. Would the final product live up to the hype? Or would it collapse under the weight of inflated expectations? Emma monitored these conversations closely, soaking in praise and criticism alike. Constructive feedback fueled her determination to deliver excellence, while toxic comments served as reminders of why she started this journey in the first place. She wanted to create something that mattered, not just to gamers, but to anyone searching for meaning in an increasingly chaotic world. To keep herself grounded, Emma made a habit of visiting local schools and community centers, sharing her story with aspiring developers and artists. These interactions reminded her of her roots, reigniting the passion that drove her through countless sleepless nights. Seeing young eyes light up at the prospect of creating their own games filled her with hope. Maybe, just maybe, her success could inspire others to chase their dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed. As development progressed, Emma faced another hurdle: burnout. Despite hiring additional staff, she insisted on being involved in every aspect of production, from debugging code to approving color palettes. Her perfectionism, once a strength, now threatened to derail her health. Sleep became sporadic, meals skipped, and migraines frequent companions. One morning, after collapsing during a routine check-in with her lead designer, she woke up in a hospital bed, for dripping into her arm. Her doctor's words cut deeper than any insult ever had. "You're running yourself into the ground," he said bluntly. "This isn't sustainable. You need rest, or you'll end up doing more harm than good." For the first time, Emma allowed herself to pause. Reluctantly, she delegated tasks she'd long insisted on handling personally, trusting her team to carry the torch. It wasn't easy, letting go rarely is, but it proved transformative. Freed from micromanagement, her colleagues flourished, bringing fresh perspectives and innovative solutions to the table. The workload lightened, deadlines became manageable, and creativity soared. In the midst of this recalibration, Emma received an invitation that left her breathless, a keynote speaking slot at the Game Developers Conference, GDC. Standing before thousands of peers, mentors, and idols felt surreal, especially considering how far she'd come since attending GDC as a wide-eyed student years ago. Preparing her speech consumed weeks, each word meticulously chosen to convey gratitude, vulnerability, and wisdom gleaned from her tumultuous journey. When the day arrived, Emma stepped onto the stage, heart pounding like a drum. Spotlights bathed her in warmth, applause echoed through the auditorium. Taking a deep breath, she began. 5 years ago, she said, her voice trembling slightly, I sat where many of you are sitting now, dreaming big, doubting constantly, and wondering if my voice truly mattered in an industry dominated by giants. Today, I stand here because I refuse to let fear silence me. Because I chose to believe that stories, even small ones, have power. That connection, even fleeting, is worth pursuing. Her words resonated deeply, earning standing ovations and tearful embraces afterward. Industry veterans approached her, thanking her for articulating struggles they too had faced. Young developers sought advice, inspired by her resilience. In that moment, surrounded by kindred spirits united by shared passion, Emma felt a profound sense of belonging. Back at Lunar Studios, momentum surged. With renewed energy and clarity, the team pushed toward launch, polishing every detail until Eclipse gleamed like a diamond. Playtests revealed overwhelmingly positive reactions, players describing the experience as life-changing and unforgettable. Even skeptics softened, admitting the game exceeded their wildest expectations. Yet amidst the excitement, Emma couldn't shake a lingering question: what came next? Success brought validation, yes, but also uncertainty. Could she replicate this triumph? Should she attempt another ambitious project, risking failure, or settle into safer territory? The future loomed large, daunting yet brimming with possibility. On the eve of Eclipse's release, Emma returned to her balcony, gazing at the city lights below. Memories flooded back, the sleepless nights, the biting rejections, the moments of doubt, and intertwined with flashes of triumph. A smile tugged at her lips as she realized something profound: the journey wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Whatever lay ahead, whether acclaim or adversity, she knew one thing for certain: she'd face it head-on, armed with lessons learned and a heart unyieldingly devoted to storytelling. After all, the best stories aren't defined by endings but by the courage to turn pages, chapter after chapter, embracing whatever comes next. As dawn painted the sky anew, Emma turned back inside, ready to write the next chapter of her extraordinary tale.